Final preparations now getting done for the S5000 feature race that's about to kick off here at the Ben Motorsport Park. We had won the opening round, historical Sandown, a few weeks ago in Victoria and Noons. That was a cracking race, but we need to explain how this all works.
Yeah, we do, Nolts, and this is the feature race, and this is the way they're doing it in S5000. So we had qualifying yesterday. That determined the grid for qualifying race 1 yesterday, and then this morning for the second qualifying race, we inverted the top 8 of the 10 cars on the grid. Combined points from the first 2 qualifying races give you the grid for the feature. Anton Di Pasquale was tied on points with John Martin. Martin finished higher in the second qualifying race, but on the tiebreaker situation, it goes to their position in qualifying, and Di Pasquale was fastest in qualifying yesterday. That's why he starts on the front row alongside Thomas Randall.
Great explanation from Aaron Noonan down in the pits. We've got Cameron Vandendungen down there as well as the 16-lap journey is about to start. And Greg Rust alongside me, smiling since Thursday when these cars were out for private practice. We've had some practice, we had qualifying, we had 2 qualifying races, and now feature race time.
This is the modern take, the modern twist on a great class of racing in the Tasman region from the 1970s. Formula 5000. They probably had black and white TV commercials back then saying, have a Bex and a lie down. Well, I probably need one of those after 2 great TCR races, but I can't because the action in this class is phenomenal. If you've not seen it, you'll really enjoy it. Think of it in very simple terms. Open wheel race cars, not unlike IndyCar or Formula 1, but cheaper in price naturally. Lots of commonality in the parts, lots of Australian design and ingenuity in it, and all powered by V8 engines. They look and sound awesome.
And several different types before we settled on this one based on the French Enroque Ligier carbon fibre chassis. We'll talk about that during the race, but Tom Randall starts from pole position here today. The Penrite de Vilbiscandia sponsored number 49 joins Anton Di Pasquale on the front row. John Martin and James Golding start on row number 2, and Will Brown and Tim Macro start on that 3rd row.
Back in the 70s, they would have done a bit of commentary like this too.
There's Thomas Randall. There's no catching him now.
Look out, here's Ricky Capo.
Look out, here's Ricky Capo. But I tell you what, Di Pasquale's got the eyes on. So they didn't really have much of an answer for Thomas early on. We had a mixed grid last time out, and this is the stage we have set for the final one for the weekend. You watch Anton Di Pasquale here. If he's got a clear line of sight in front of him, if he can get a good start, he will absolutely take it to Thomas Randall.
So much international experience in this field as well. We also welcome Braden Wilmington into the field, his first start. Known for his dirt track exploits over in Sydney in the United States behind the wheel of a speed car and a sprint car. We'll head back to the pits. One quick update before we go green here at the bend. Here's Aaron Noonan.
Hey, Matt, I just ducked in and had a chat to the team looking after James Winslow's car, the Astron Tech number 8 car. They've changed the steering wheel on his car on the grid. Remember, these are a paddle shift, the S5000 car. The paddles to go up the gears were working. The paddles to go down the gears, they weren't working. So it seems like things are okay. They've changed the wheel in that car, and well, we claim him as an Aussie because he spent a lot of time here over the years, and he's a former Gold Star winner, James Winslow. He should be okay to go, but let's just keep an eye on that Astron Tech number 8 car.
Nice spot. Get ready for the thunder, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm lucky they picked it up on the grid prior to start the race. What a beautiful day it's been here at the Ben Motorsport Park. Just an hour and a bit to the southeast of Adelaide on the southeastern freeway. A very quick trip to come to this track, which started its life as the Mitsubishi Proving Ground back in the 80s and now known as the Ben Motorsport Park, with so much development still to come. Michael Gibson brings car number 11 into position. The WM Waste entry. Green flag waves at the back. 560 horsepower about to be unleashed for 16 laps. A whisker under 80 kilometres of racing. Oh, Di Pasquale falters a bit at the start. He gets away, but it gives a free kick to Tom Randall straight away, who just parks it down the middle and moves back towards the traditional part of the racing line at turn number 1. Here comes Tim Macro down the inside. He's side by side with James Golding. Avoids a bit of contact. Martin slots in behind, and Will Brown is also there. But Di Pasquale already on the back of Tom Randall. Everybody's safely through. Let's jump on board. The pace sponsored number 99, the car that Rubens Barrichello drove at the Sandown round this weekend in the hands of ADP.
And he looks racy, doesn't he? Tries to look up the inside. Randall's got it covered and locks the brake. They make contact. That's all good for Tim Macro and for James Golding. Not good. Randall now slots in behind these guys. He's got all that work to do again. Di Pasquale to the front. Look at him dance.
that was brewing from turn number 3. Turn 6 has been the trigger point all weekend long, but puts Di Pasquale back into the lead, so it kind of balanced out after that start, or he just faltered away a bit. Car 99 leads Tim Macro to the top of the hill here at turn 13. Taken away that tyre bundle for good measure too. One of these hit that, it would not move any further.
And Randall is behind Will Brown. He's back in 5th place. So Di Pasquale leads the way from James Golding, and in the middle of the mix there is Tim Macro, sandwiched between those two. So this is good for Anton Di Pasquale.
Was very quick in practice, exceptional in qualifying yesterday. In the original qualifying, keep in mind, if it's your first time watching, we had 2 qualifying races that set the grid for S5000. 1 lap in the books, crank it up at home. Incredible sound. These Coyote engines just unleashed at nearly 280 kilometres an hour on the run to turn number 1. Macro and Golding, 2nd and 3rd now on the circuit. And there's Tom Randall trying to engage with these cars in front after that bump down at the turn 6 hairpin.
If you're in trouble for upping the volume at home to listen, just send your emails to Matt Nolte, care of S5000. We make no apologies. On board with James Golding here now. And that for 2nd place. Looks up the inside. Oh, they touch! They make contact! That'll be game over. I reckon the damage to the left rear might be bad for him as well. For Macro, what a shame. Golding had a look. He's done a really good job all weekend long. Opportunity knocked and he went for it.
And the right front will be knocked out. You won't be able to see with Golding's helmet in the way from his onboard camera. That's the 2nd incident, and there's many laps down there at turn number 6, and that blows the race wide apart now. Anton Di Pasquale will get 2.5 seconds, puts Martin up into 2nd. Randall behind these guys as well with Capo, who drove very well this morning in the 2nd qualifying race, splitting Randall and Di Pasquale.
How good are those that are on double duty? John Martin currently 2nd. He stepped straight out of the Honda Civic Type R into the open wheeler. He's P2. Will Brown is P3. He was only celebrating on the roof of the Hyundai a handful of moments ago.
And the last car to the grid, by the time he got from the podium and belted into the KMC wheels, Eggleston Motorsport prepared car, he made the grid just in time for the start of the race. So a game changer on the 2nd lap. It's the Cruz. They're saying come out to not just have a listen, but see if there's any damage.
So what's going on with the weaving there for Thomas Randall? And are the crew trying to observe something? Now Macro is out. That was amazing. I thought there would be damage to the left rear. He's tried to keep going, and it seems as though that's what the attention is for there. So unfortunately, Macro, like Golding, is out of this race.
That left looked pretty sad. The Maxwell Racing will really taking a hit down there at turn number 6. Randall runs wide here down at turn number 6. Ricky Capo waiting to capitalise. So here it is. It was on the inside on the Actron Air replay and just couldn't get the Boost mobile car pulled up in time and contact with the Macro Motorsport car.
Let's have another look at it here.
Just enough dirt on the track down there still as well.
It'd be interesting to see how race control view that. The good-natured part of me says, you know what, Jimmy Golding, you got to have a crack. The door looked open. Why not have a shot at things? But Macro was clearly wanting the ideal line for the corner as well. So we'll keep you posted if we get word on how that's viewed. But the net result is both are out of the game.
Alex Davison is the DSO for the S5000 series. He was in fact driving at the first round. He's caught up in that mega crash on the back straight and involved Matt Brabham as well. And that car suffered a big hit, but really was the poster for the safety of this category. Yeah, it broke apart, but he was absolutely A-OK to get out of that car. And he's looking on. He's missing not racing, but he said, there's only one Alex Davison. I can't be everywhere at once, but maybe, just maybe, we'll see him behind the wheel of a car in the future. And again, Randall weaving on the straight aboard that Penrite, number 49. Capo just behind, and here's James Winslow in the Astron Tech number 8.
Can't he just do a 3D printout? Get another Alex Davison. Safety car has been called. So ANCAP safety car has been deployed here at the Bend with a scheduled 13 laps remaining in this one. Di Pasquale, that advantage of 2.3 seconds he had will get eaten away. John Martin second, Will Brown third. We go back, these are some of the guys who've been learning over the weekend. So Michael Gibson in the WM Waste Management entry, a guy whose family has a lot of history in Australian motorsport, and they have people working on the car that have Formula One experience, have worked with the likes of Michael Schumacher, with Damon Hill, and this young guy here, from a family that's known in Australian motor racing as well, Gary Wilmington, a very experienced privateer in touring car racing over the years. This is his son, Braden, who more recently has been racing in speed cars, or midgets as we know them, and sprint cars as well, and he's continuing to do that. But this is a whole new ball game, Matt. Whole new ball game for him, and he's loving the opportunity to drive an open wheeler. But it's big gains, big learnings for both of them. Yeah, in particular, the 89, he learnt a lot earlier today, found about a second and a half on his qualifying pace. Well, while the ANCAP safety car is out here, we've been talking about this young guy. He's really risen to the national stage this year. He's spent a lot of time over in Europe. Let's learn more about Tom Randall.
Looking back at your CV, there's lots of open wheeler experience in this country, in New Zealand, and in England and Europe for that matter. Nice to get back to your single-seater roots.
Absolutely, I'm really looking forward to it. I've just got to thank everyone from S5000 and Penrite to Vilbus, Scandia and Rusty French for helping out. I mean, you step out of a single-seater and going into a tin top, you never normally get a chance to come back. So to have that opportunity here at Taylor Ben's fantastic, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting in the car and seeing what they're like.
You're no stranger to this track, but what's it like to drive them here?
Unreal, yeah, lots of fun. I mean, to have a V8 open wheeler category in Australia with not much aero, it's kind of like a Formula Ford with more mechanical grip, but not as much aero as a Formula 3 car, and then a big V8 in the back of it. I mean, to have, yeah, if we can get 20 of these next year at the Grand Prix, that would be fantastic. But yeah, I'm just really loving it. I mean, I'm using muscles that I can't remember using for such a long time. I mean, the V8's power steering, it's pretty simple, whereas this is, yeah, hardcore driving. So just want to get back in the car, to be honest, Rusty.
I know the focus for you in career terms is touring cars or supercars, but you're going back to what you enjoyed in, Formula Ford champion, TRS in New Zealand and Formula 3 in Europe. Would we see you on the grid in 2020 in an S5000 car if an opportunity presents?
I hope so, absolutely. I mean, just after driving it today, I mean, it's what a beast of a car, and the racing looked really spectacular at Sandown. And I've actually kept in contact with Barrichello, and he's been giving me some tips about how to drive these cars over WhatsApp. So yeah, I'm going to keep him updated on how I go, but I'd love to be in one of these cars at the Grand Prix.
Is it all serious, or are you and Anton and Jimmy Golding all getting on together and helping you?
Hey, look, we're having fun, but at the end of the day, we're all racers, so trust me, it's going to be game on.
Great to have Tom Randall in the field, and that's a sad sign for the Boost Mobile Gary Rogers team, with feature race winner from Sandown, James Golding's car on the back of the tilt tray here, and that's why the ANCAP safety car is still out in the circuit here with 12 laps remaining. This is the replay, thanks to Actron Air, on how it all played out down at turn 6.
So makes the big lunge, Macro lining up for the corner, they make contact and ultimately both retire from this race. So I feel for both of them for different reasons, Matt. I mean, Jimmy in particular, for those of you that follow your motor racing, yes, he has tidied up that bowl cut, I should point out too, from last weekend's action at Sandown. That's a disappointing way for him to end his weekend, because he was doing a ripping job. And who knows what's going to happen to him next year in career terms. It would be wonderful to see him back regularly in an S5000 car. He's acquitted himself very well. Yeah, absolutely agree. All this crowd here today, way bigger than yesterday. They had a great crowd for Saturday. A lot of people taking the opportunity for the park and view here at the Ben Motorsport Park. They've got a big event coming up in December with the Ben Classic. We'll see a lot of the old F5000 cars, the lead-in cars to what we see here today on December 7 and 8. We'll see a lot of classic and unique race cars here at this event, Cam, and maybe we'll see you back behind the wheel at that event too.
I've just been with the team down at AGI Sport. John Martin's been on the radio suggesting that the entire front row jumped the start. So he's called through and asked for a replay on that. So let's have a look at the replay. We maybe just missed it on that replay then, but John Martin is adamant the front row jumped the start.
Okay, so that's the story we'll keep a close eye on. Where our commentary box is here is very close to race control.
I held back. It looked like it, but we've got no lights to compare that with as well. A behind shot would really work with that one, but we'll keep an eye on that one. So there might be more to this story with De Pasquale, Martin and Brown, the top three in this race. You look at Gibson and Braden Wilmington at the back of this field. Incidentally, we have got a time certain point for this race, and it's about 14 minutes away, scheduled for 3:11 local time here in South Australia. Looking good to go back to green flag racing at the end of this lap as the tilt train. We've got to say a big shout out to our volunteers and officials that have been here, some since Thursday and across the entire 3 days here at the Bend Motorsport Park. The finale of this year's series, 2020, looks incredible. You're going to see these cars at the Albert Park Formula One Grand Prix. That is going to be something special.
Cannot wait. And what a contrast for you. Such a shame to see that car coming back on a tilt tray. We're chasing that story that Cam raised before. We'll get an update in the meantime. Back to here's Aaron Noonan.
Rusty, I just want to elaborate on the point you boys were discussing about next year's calendar for S5000. I mean, 2020 looks great. 6 series rounds plus the non-championship event at the Bathurst International at Mount Panorama later in the year. One of the common questions, in fact, that was asked at the launch for this category late last year at Sydney Motorsport Park, could this be the category that sees the Gold Star, the Australian Drivers' Championship, revive? It's been dormant with CAMS for the last, 3 or 4 years since it was last held. All the signs would say, and as an enthusiast and as a passionate follower of motorsport over the years, this has got to be the category, surely, that if there's going to be a category that gets the Gold Star reinstated, it's this one for, well, hopefully next year.
Well, I know the MC of that launch, and he got a Gold Star on the day. but you're right, Noons. We'd love to see that reignite. I mean, when you look back through the history pages, those that have been able to claim the Gold Star, that's a huge thing in Australian motorsport. So they line up behind Anton De Pasquale here, set for a restart. He'll control the field at the Bend Motorsport Park. We're missing Macro and Golding. They're out of the game. Martin, concerned about the original start. Did the front row jump the start? It's under potential investigation. Will Brown maybe eyeing up yet another podium to finish the weekend. What a year. What a weekend he's had at the Bend. De Pasquale bolts, that car that was in the hands of Rubens Barrichello at Sandown.
They're trying to put some heat back into these tyres. Well, they've got the advantage of this 1 kilometre main straight. De Pasquale leads Martin, who leads Brown, who leads Randall, and the rest of the field into turn number 1. With the loss of those 2 cars, leaves us with 8 for the final 10 laps. There is Will Brown in the KMC Wheels entry, car number 38. Crowned as this year's Car Sales TCR Australia Series champion, and really loving his time. He didn't on Friday, but he's loving the weekend now behind the wheel of this number 38.
We had the radar gun out earlier today when they were going along the front straight here at the Bend Motorsport Park. 273 k's an hour, and I know Thomas Randall in the Penrite Scandia entry said to me when he was driving the car in practice on Thursday, getting acquainted with it, he glanced down at the dash, 280 k's an hour. Super at the end of the straight.
Incredible speeds, isn't it? And a track that's absolutely designed for open wheel cars as well. De Pasquale from Martin. So 2 international stars in open wheelers across the top at turn number 13. Tom Randall, after the moment down at turn 6, runs in 4th position and starts to engage with his Super 2 buddy on the way down the hill here through turn 14 and the climb and change of direction.
Pure race fan says, love seeing the guys that are on double duty doing exactly that, just driving race cars. But John Martin said to me earlier today, it's a huge undertaking, and he feels at times like there's great aspects to it that we as fans enjoy, but at the same time, let's listen here, let's listen. The thunder. The point I was going to conclude is that to do it with all the level of detail, those 1%ers, those little things you need to get right across 2 very different race cars and 2 very different teams of people working them, it's a hard thing to do. It's a big mission.
Yeah, big tilt to the guys that can do it here today. And one thing that's notable when you see the drivers get out is These guys are incredibly fit, but they are sweating, they are panting at the end of these races. We haven't seen them go this distance. This is nearly 80 kilometres, and Cam, race fitness is absolutely critical in this one.
I'm just getting word down here that Anton De Pasquale has received a 10-second time penalty as a result of the clash on the first lap at the start of this race. 10-second time penalty to Anton De Pasquale.
Okay, nothing confirmed on our screen, but that is big news. That would put him to 8th in the field at the moment.
And that's the clash with this guy here from memory in the Penrite entry, Thomas Randall. So they're working hard in race control at the moment. Is that start under investigation? But the clash, that contact in the early part of the race, it would seem may cost Anton De Pasquale a penalty to be applied. That would give John Martin the race lead effectively from Will Brown and Randall up into 3rd.
Wow, so De Pasquale has to really get on with the job now if he wants to get a reasonable finish out of all of this. They come around to complete lap number 8 of this race. We're halfway home. You better grab that volume controller home, because here comes the sound.
You look at the layout of the international circuit. Here at the Bend, there's all sorts of different configurations that they can use for different track activity. The longest circuit is 7.7 Ks. We're on the international layout, which is 4.95 Ks. On paper, lots of challenges in it, but when you see them racing around, I mean, I think the word you used in the TCR coverage was, it's like a roller coaster. It's really challenging, isn't it? And
considering we are on what they call the plains of South Australia out here, the work that went into this venue to get the elevation changes was astronomical, like dynamiting the earth and the bedrock out here to create these up and downhill sections. A lot of effort and a lot of planning went into create this Bend Motorsport Park, and it's delivering in its 2nd year of operation.
It sure is. Amazing to think that they only started turning the soil back in 2016, and there's still more to come. The work continues. Fastest lap of the race so far belongs to De Pasquale, a 1:42.10, but with that likely 10-second time penalty to be applied, he's only ahead of Martin by 1.39 seconds. It would drop Anton back at the moment to where Michael Gibson is, back in 7th place, behind James Winslow.
Yeah, couldn't come at a worse time, could it, after the NCAP safety car went into pit lane. Now Randall is closer than ever to the back of Will Brown, and it'll be about the drive out of turn number 18 here for that beautiful black and gold number 49, prepared by South Aussie team, Team BRM. They've been around for many years. They've had so much success in open wheel racing.
He's a guy who's enormously talented on a piano as well.
Yes.
And he went down to see his friend Liam McAdam yesterday, who had been racing the Audi for the Melbourne Performance Centre team. He wanted to check out the TCR car, and when he got out, he accidentally slammed the door shut on his hand. So he's actually got some scarring. But he said, oh, look, it's not a great story to tell. The injuries are minor, and it didn't seem to slow him down earlier in the weekend, did it?
And they're the worst injuries, right on the edge of your finger too. That's going to drive him mad for the next few weeks. He's got to race again next weekend too in Newcastle. So too does Brown and De Pasquale. It's around through turn 8, 9 and 10. We stay with that KMC Wheels entry of Will Brown. Car number 38. So we're working lap 10 of 16.
Greg Rust, Anton De Pasquale has been informed of that 10-second penalty, so he is well and truly aware of it. Watch him push as hard as he can for the remainder of this race.
Hey, Cam, I think the last time you went and knocked on the door at Race Control, they showed you the door, didn't they? So we nominate you to go and find out about that start, please.
I will head on up. I know a lot of people are asking me about it at the moment, but don't worry, I'll see if I can make my way in.
Do your best. Put your foot in the door.
He's on first-name basis at Race Control in his driving career.
Mr. Van den Duggan, we're ready to see you now. Anton De Pasquale, it's a 1.4 second advantage, but you heard Cam clarify there that he knows about the penalty. He's a racer. He's a proper racer, this guy, that was back in 2015 in open wheelers, trying to do the hard yards overseas. He's really enjoyed being back behind the wheel of one here. He'll be miffed at that. No doubt about it. And he's sending a clear message here, Matt. Look at that fastest lap of the race so far. 41.85 from Anton De Pasquale.
It's about 6/10 away from the qualifying time. They were flirting with maybe a 41.0, maybe a 40.9 in qualifying. but he's going to have to charge here. It's going to put him back to 6th position, maybe 7th when we get to the end of the race here. Lap 11 of 16. We check in with Braden Wilmington down at turn number 1. Behind the wheel of an S5000 car for the first time in his career. Started in junior sedans. They're 4-cylinder cars like Daihatsu Charades and little Corollas on the dirt tracks, and then stepped into a speed car. So he's been getting used to horsepower as he gets older. But isn't this baptism by fire today for the 89?
And such a different racing position, seating position to what he's used to in those 4-cylinder speed cars or the big high horsepower sprint cars. And every time I've been down there this weekend to the pit garage, he and his dad have been taking people for tours through to have a look at the cars. So many people are interested in this class, and he's always had the widest, brightest smile on his face. He's really enjoying it.
And you referred to Gary Wilmington, his dad, who had over 20 starts at the mountain over the years in the 80s and early 90s at Mount Panorama. And now his son Braden behind the wheel of these beautiful S5000 cars in their second appearance, but their first appearance in South Australia here at the Bend Motorsport Park. There'll be 5 laps to go at the end of this.
I should point out too that Michael Gibson, his regular job is working on Joe Collegia's amazing race cars. And those of you that perhaps have seen some of the historic meetings at places like Phillip Island will know that John Bow, who's probably watching, g'day JB, regularly races some of the cars in Joe's collection, both here in Australia and overseas. So that's what Michael does on a day-to-day basis, gets to work on those race cars. Now he's behind the wheel.
Yeah, it's not a bad living, is it? When you get to travel around doing this. Comes from the Gibson family that been around for generations now. His uncles used to race sports cars and F2 back in the day and spent some time in Formula 1. Moment, Will Brown still...
He's got some good stories about that time in Formula 1 as well, and working with Damon Hill, and can't speak highly enough of Michael Schumacher, and I think it was Benetton that he was at the time, yes. Working with Michael, so pretty cool. Moons?
Hey, just watching Will Brown here, boys, and something occurred to me. Those really familiar blue and black colours of Eggleston Motorsport. I just stopped in to see the team. Ben and Rachel Eggleston, neither of them are here this weekend. This has to be, I can't remember a time when Eggleston Motorsport ran in Super 2 or GT or now an S5000 without one of them, Ben or Rachel, being here. So this is something I'm racking my brain and I can't think of the time. Yeah. So I'm sure I'll cop a text message from one of them soon.
I'm glad you picked that up. I haven't seen him at all this weekend. So glad you picked up on that one as well. Ben and Rachel Eggleston have been around for a long time in Super 2. Ben, of course, used to race himself, very accomplished racer.
And Rachel's dad was very accomplished in Porsche Cup racing in this country. So we wish them well. No doubt they are watching on the telly. And Will Brown is currently sitting in P2 for this race. They've updated the timing. So there it is. That's inside the Boost Mobile garage. They've had some great T-shirts, not just that one. There's another cool one of Gary Rogers floating around that they're selling this weekend, which is nice.
It's Series 6 of the shirt collection. There's some punters walking around yesterday. Colourful characters for Australian motor racing. Meantime, we enter the closing stages of this race, the feature race that was slowed up by the ANCAP safety car while we retrieved the James Golding car off the circuit. And we now enter the closing stages. Noons?
Hey, Knuckles, I've just got a text from Ben Eggleston.
That's fine, but yeah.
The last time that there wasn't an Eggleston with an Eggleston Motorsport car was 2017. There was a clash that weekend with the Kumo series and Australian GT racing over in New Zealand, and Ben went to the Kumo round and not the GT round. So there you go. We can touch and get to anyone in Australian motorsport when we need an answer, can't we?
You two are in trouble. I didn't bring it up. You two brought it up. While you relayed that text message, Tom Randall got around Will Brown. So Randall up into what is effectively position number 2. Meantime, Anton De Pasquale, 41.51, fastest lap of the race so far. There's the position change. Maybe did Brown get in there just a fraction hot? I'd need to look at that again.
Maybe they asked Brown what was the last round that the Egglestons missed, and it spooked him down there at turn number 6. I'm joking, massively. Here's De Pasquale. 10 seconds, remember, to be added to his time. The margin, 2 seconds.
Was that Randall battling Martin in the background there? Just keep an eye on P2. Look, he's close. He's close for position 2. So Randall has cranked it up here. 41.45. This is an absolute statement by Anton De Pasquale. He leads by 3.9 seconds. He needs 10. He probably won't get it with less than 3 to go, but he's saying, look, what about that for a lap time around the Ben Motorsport Park?
Looking good for 5th at the moment, but it's also a great point for those Hoosier tyres that just get better and better as the race goes on here. 41.4 on the previous lap. The gap is just under 4 seconds now to John Martin and Tom Randall. Here's the shirts we're talking about.
Beer, snags and gas.
Tick, tick, tick.
There he is, the great man. Good on you.
Been a great day out in the sun. Actually, it is a good day for a barbie. I saw a few fans that on the backside of the track here earlier today doing that. Had a great day in temperature, just in the low 20s. Little to no breeze here, which is great. Great racing conditions, great for the fans and great for the drivers out in this S5000 category.
I think you're the weatherman. I'm not. I think it's meant to be sort of early to mid-30s tomorrow. So we've picked it. We've absolutely nailed it weather-wise.
43 here on Wednesday coming up. And then 20 on Thursday. That's how quickly it can change in this part of the world.
Matt Nolte at the weather wall there. We go back to what's happening up in front. Oh no, off goes Michael Gibson. WM Waste Management entry. Now, he'd, I think, been very close to his best lap of the weekend. He was down in position number 7. That'll give P7 to Braden Wilmington.
I wonder if that was around through turn 9 and turn 10 where we saw the incidents in car sales TCR Australia just before. So he's off the circuit, puts Braden Wilmington into 7th, while Martin, Randall and Brown argue over 2nd, 3rd and 4th position. 2 laps to go here at the Ben Motorsport Park. De Pasquale has 4 seconds now on this field. At the moment, he's looking good for 5th position when that 10 seconds is applied at the end of the race.
But this is the effective battle for the race lead. 2nd on the road, but once that penalty Matt's referring to kicks in, it would mean that John Martin leads the race. And there's no doubt Thomas Randall knows that. So the man who was super fast on Friday and dominated practice in that Penrite entry wants to try and snatch the win. We know Martin's been battling with a bit of understeer, a couple of issues. His words this morning were, we've had a big swing at it in terms of setup change from Saturday to Sunday. Is he still battling now? Has he got enough left to hang on for that race win?
We'll know in about a lap and a half time. So take that little short straight up towards turn 13. We saw Brown have that moment yesterday, across the top on the dusty side of the circuit. And now Randall putting himself into a nice position here on John Martin, the 35-year-old. Originally from Gosford, he's picked up the Super League Championship back in 2011. He was a former Australian Formula 4 champion. He raced with the Alan Docking team in British Formula 3. And now racing for the AGI Sport team, headed by Adam Gotch. Based out of Sydney. Gotch, another one of the expat Formula 1 mechanics from the Williams team in the day. And now 1 lap to go in the S5000 feature race here at the Ben Motorsport Park.
Andre's not been able to push that gap too much further out. It sits at 4.3 seconds. He has the fastest lap of the race at 41.45. Is John Martin about to take a race win in S5000? What's Randall got? Less than 4.95 Ks to go around the Ben Motorsport Park. Perfect way to wrap up season 2019 and to get you excited about a huge year in 2020, including, what a way to kick off, the Australian Grand Prix with these machines.
Melbourne won't know what hit it when we get there in March. And a big field of cars expected there and some international stars on the list for that one. Final lap, final half lap now through turn 9, 10. And we work our way to turn 11. De Pasquale, 1:41.4 is the quickest lap of the race. He went back-to-back fastest laps and is looking likely to leave here with the fastest lap next to his name for the S5000 category till we return next year in the series of 2020.
Might have got a penalty for the contact, but what a talent Anton De Pasquale is. Huge future in front of him in touring car terms in this country. Did those hard yards early on, tried to make an open wheel career in Europe, came back under the tutelage of people like Paul Morris, who's been texting me during the race. He's gone on to do some tremendous things. He will greet the checkered flag, but sadly he will not win this race. A 10-second penalty kicks in. That means John Martin wins S5000 here. Our feature race at the Bend Motorsport Park from Randall.
And Di Pasquale sets the new lap record on the final lap. The fastest third sector. And it gives us a 41.4. He will drop down to 5th spot on corrected order. And it gives it to this guy, John Martin. Well deserved for both he and AGI Sport. Will win this by just 0.7 of a second. Will Brown will be third when we head to the podium at the end of this. And we got through with just the one ANCAP safety car period. And a big tick to the field. These cars very durable. We had a couple of incidents during it, but nonetheless, we lasted the entire 16 laps, just a whisker under 80 kilometres of racing, and it went by in just over 31 minutes.
Does anyone sort of pause to think about the fact that Will Brown's kind of had a mortgage on the podium here this weekend? He gets another one. So Di Pasquale, in terms of our results, is the first to cross the line. But with the penalty, John Martin is your race winner here in the feature for S5000 from Thomas Randall. Will Brown will wrap up the podium. Nice drive by Ricky Capo. He's been pretty good all weekend, hasn't he?
Solid would be the word to use for that Valvoline Modena Engineering prepared car. James Winslow was next. Braden Wilmington ahead of Michael Gibson, and Tim Macro and James Golding. They went out with that incident down at the turn 6 hairpin in what was brewing to be a really good battle for a podium position. But John Martin, he'll take the chocolates home here from the Bend Motorsport Park. Tom Randall and Will Brown will be able to autograph the podium with his name now.
No doubt the Erebus team, various members are keeping an eye on it. Well done for what Anton's been able to achieve here this weekend. I know the penalty has changed the end result, but there's lots of positives. That pole position, he got it right at the very end of qualifying, didn't he? It was a good job. Good job, and fast in that race as well. So lots of stories in S5000, and it has, between Sandown and here with some international visitors, it has whet the appetite without overselling it for 2020.
I cannot wait for the first race at Albert Park in 2020 as part of the Formula One Australian Grand Prix. John Martin, Tom Randall and Will Brown will be the top three. Di Pasquale slots into 4th position on that corrected order ahead of Ricky Capo. But in come the top three underneath our podium on what's been a magic day here at the Bend Motorsport Park from a weather perspective and a racing perspective here today. John Martin, with all those years of international experience. Another guy I'd be happy for him too will be Liam Talbot, who's driven with for many, many years in GT racing. But Noons, you're about to check in with our race winner here today of the S5000 feature race.
Well, I've chatted to John Martin in Parc Ferme in Victory Lane a few times over the course of this weekend, but not in P1. That's about to change as he steps out of the AGI Sport car. The team are here as he steps on out as the feature race winner at the Bend Motorsport Park. He's won in TCR here earlier in the year. We'll dive on in. We'll let him take his helmet off. He's a happy, happy man. Congratulations too from Tom Randall. We'll let you get your helmet off there, John. It's been a massive day for these drivers who've been on double duty with TCR and S5000 as well. You could not get two more diametrically opposed racing cars for them to be driving, and that's what they've been doing. Hey, John, well done, mate. Here, have a... I'm not sure that over the balaclava is such a good look, but winners are grinners. Well done.
Yeah, thanks. We've been... kind of working towards this. Obviously, not really the way we wanted to do it. Obviously, not finishing first on the road, but Anton was pretty quick. Feel the boys did an awesome job this weekend. Sort of struggled a bit on Friday, and we've been tuning it up the whole way through. So it's credit to them guys, and obviously everyone that's helped support me and helped me make this round possible. So up until the last minute, it wasn't really happening. So yeah, pleased we did it now.
We've done 2 events at S5000. It was a dream. It was a pipe dream. Now it's a real thing, and we're going to go race again next year. You want to have another go?
Oh, absolutely. I'm in. Where do I sign?
We'll find somewhere for you. There he is, John Martin, the winner of our feature race. We will head around to the runner-up.